Ah, Bayern Munich 1, United nil. United nil, Bayern Munich 1. Not a surprising result for those of us who support Manchester United. Not a surprising result for those of us who watch a lot of football. Not a surprising result for those of us who don't even care about the beautiful game. But what a terrible, terrible performance from the team. I had a feeling we were going to come out and die on our shields. I had a feeling those players were going to be embarrassed from the 3-0 drubbing at home to Bournemouth a few days before, and they were going to step up and actually perform. They were going to go pedal to the metal, hell for leather, to make sure they gave everything on the pitch. And if we lost 4-1, 3-2, 2-1, at least they would try. But that didn't happen. I'm not sure if it's the tactics from Erik ten Hag to start off very tentatively. I'm not sure if it's the players were really conscious that they didn't want to get ripped to pieces by a very strong Bayern Munich side, even though they came off a 5-1 loss against Eintracht Frankfurt. Whatever it was, we started off horribly. We started off slow. We started off really odd, considering that we had to win that game and hope Galatasaray and Copenhagen drew to go through to the next stage of the Champions League. But there was no impetus from us. It didn't seem like we really, really wanted to make a stamp in a game and go out with some credit in the bank and go out with a little bit of dignity and our head held high. That didn't happen. If anything, I felt like Bayern Munich played within themselves. They played knowing full well if they turn up the level, if they went into gear 2, gear 3, they could basically take us out. And that's exactly what happened in the second half. They had one moment of pure brilliance between a few of their players, quick passes, which kind of finally led to Harry Kane receiving the ball just outside the box. And Harry Kane's assist ability, Harry Kane's passing within that, box area, the final third, has always been underrated. So it's no surprise when he was able to flick the ball around the corner into the path of Kingsley Coman, who was very impressive, by the way. Kingsley Coman and Musiala were very, very impressive. Seeing those two level of wingers playing while we have Garnacho and Antony playing was incredible. Because if Antony's worth 100 million, how much is Musiala worth? If Antony is worth 100 million, how much is Musiala worth? How much is Kingsley Coman worth even though he's a little bit of a senior player, right? Or, in terms of his appearances, in terms of what he's won. Obviously, in age, he's not super old, but still, those players are of another level, elite, especially Musiala when he was drifting on the inside. Our wingers got absolutely no joy from, I forgot the right back's name, I think it's Mazwari, and then from, of course, Alphonso Davies. Antony couldn't outrun Alphonso Davies, but then I also thought, hey, why don't you take him on the inside? He couldn't do that either. He got completely locked and loaded. And Alphonso Davies had Antony in his back pocket. Garnacho even had a little bit of joy with the right back he was facing from Bayern Munich, but even that guy, he still had him in his back pocket. We were getting no joy from the flanks, no joy through the middle, and the worst performance, and the one I feel the worst for, was Højlund up front. Højlund was playing an absolute graveyard shift. That was a thankless task. He was tasked with trying to compete and battle with two defenders who love to be physical. We know about Upamecano. Upamecano, I've never really been a big fan of his. I feel like he's always got a mistake in him. But one thing that you know about Upamecano, he's always going to be involved in the physical battle. He loves the physicality of defending. He loves getting tight to attackers. He loves nipping in front. He loves sliding in from the side, from the back, jumping on top. He loves the physicality of defending with a capital D. But then the one that surprised me the most was Kim Min-jae. Kim Min-jae, oh my God. I get why everybody was clamoring for his signing. I get why everybody was fighting to take him off of Napoli before he went to Bayern Munich. Because that guy is effectively, when you look from afar and you're squinting, he kind of looks like Harry Maguire. So he has the stature of Harry Maguire, right? In terms of being 6 foot plus, very broad. But he has better playing ability on the ball. He's a far better defender. He reads the game well, and he also enjoys defending. He enjoys slide tackling. He enjoys getting physical. And Kim Min-jae and Upamecano absolutely battered Højlund. I felt so bad for him. Towards the end of the game, there was a moment where Højlund was trying to close the defender down in the corner flag, and the camera's right there on the sideline, so you could see Højlund a bit closer. And he was like, when you're at the end of a really long 10K, you're at the end of a really long Sunday run. He was really running through fucking treacle, running through custard. He looked absolutely tired. He was blowing out of his absolute arse. Snot bubbles were coming out of his fucking nose. I felt so bad for the kid. But I also think He maybe should have mixed up his game. He tried to get physical too much with Kim Min-jae and Upamecano backing into him. Maybe he should have dropped off a little bit, received the ball into space, what Harry Kane was doing. Maybe that comes with age. That's an experience thing, because we saw Harry Kane do that quite a bit. He'd drop off from the defenders, he'd receive it in the sort of midfield area, pop it around, another player would occupy that position, and whatever it may be. But let's be real. Bayern Munich are a far better team than us, even though we probably spent way more money than them in recent years. That squad that they assembled, the bench that they had was incredible. Think of all the players that they've kind of let go. The Gravenberches, right? He would walk into our midfield. He'd probably be our captain. I think of as well the defender. He wasn't even in the squad, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure Matthias de Ligt wasn't even in the bench, right? And he would walk into our team. He would definitely be one of our starting defenders. So that was a real concern in that regard, but again, not surprising. The only really standouts I'd say in terms of positives would say Amrabat, I thought, had a good game. I thought Varane also played pretty well. Varane was interesting though. Rafael Varane, he came off around 70th minute, which I don't really know why he got subbed off, but maybe they're saving him for the league game. He came off, and the way he ran off the pitch was hilarious. He couldn't wait to get off that fucking pitch. He wanted no business of being part of the absolute horror show. So I guess it is what it is. We're at the Champions League. I'm happy about that, to be fair. I don't like being in competitions that you don't have any chance of winning anyway. I feel like we have way more work to do as a club, as a team, managers, players, whatever, that doesn't need a distraction of the Champions League. That's just a vanity thing that we can't even win at the moment. So there's no point just doing a participation trophy thing just for the sake of it. And I'm also happy we're not in the Europa League. We're not playing games every other 3 days or whatever in these far-flung places in Europe and getting battered by teams that we probably didn't even know existed beforehand, which would definitely bring down our morale, right, and make us feel even worse. So I'm glad that we're out of all European competitions because we don't deserve to be in them. Personally, I've never been a fan of Europa League, but I'd rather qualify for the Europa League than qualify for the Champions League and then get demoted to the Europa League. That's what I don't want. I want to qualify Europa League, fair enough, and build that way, and then build for up next season for the Champions League. Cool. Let's go from that. But the really stark thing here is that most fans, myself included, I'm tired of Erik ten Hag. I'm tired. As much as I want these players gone, as much as I know the problem with Manchester United isn't the managers, it's mostly to do with the owners. It's not even the players, not even the transfers. It's the fucking owners. We have one of the worst owners in the history of the game, if not the history of the game. We have the worst owners. The Glazers have categorically sunken my beautiful club to the depths of the fucking ocean, and it breaks my heart every single time because the only way things are going to change is if we get the fucking Glazers out, but they don't want to let go of the club. They don't want to sell fully. They don't even want to sell partially. The Sir Jim Ratcliffe fucking partial deal has still not been ratified or gone through or been processed yet. There's still rumors that the Qatari group are still interested. Whatever. We have no idea what's going on, and it's been more than a year so far. The Glazers are the biggest problem. But at the moment, I can't justify and I can't stand behind having a manager like Erik ten Hag, who is that inept, who is unable to realize who his best players are, who makes some baffling substitution decisions, who doesn't know how to rotate properly, who for the most part has not implemented any style of play. We don't even have patterns of play. Højlund, I can criticize him because he just looks like a faster Weghorst, right? He doesn't really look that great. He's not probably the striker that we need now to be leading our front line. He's probably way too young. He probably costs too much money, too much pressure on him. I understand that. But is he really given a chance to succeed? What patterns of play have you seen that bring out the best in Weghorst? Martial and Højlund are two very different strikers. But when we play them, when we play either of those guys, we play the same way. We don't cater to Martial's strengths. Maybe receiving the ball into feet, into the channels, over the top. We don't play to Højlund's strengths. Maybe crosses in the box. Maybe long balls over the top. So why pay that much money for such a young player, 70 plus million, right? And not have a plan for him, not have an idea of how you want to use him. That's a really concerning thing for me at the moment. Even someone like an Anthony, the much, harassed, the much criticized, the much kind of people just got confused about his signing. You watch him for Ajax. Where does Anthony in the compilations that you've seen him play really well for Ajax? Where does he receive the ball? He receives the ball much closer to goal than he does at United. For United, he's receiving the ball nearly at the halfway line. Where's he going to go? He hasn't got blistering pace to get past four defenders that way. He's got good acceleration. He's got good close control. But usually the best results you see from Anthony is when he's closer to the goal. So we haven't got a plan for Anthony. We don't have a plan for Højlund. We don't play out from the back well. Even though we signed a keeper that literally has good feet, it's all over the place. And it's really getting on my nerves. So at the moment, the one person who I can kind of point at my ire to, because that's the only thing I can kind of get frustrated at, is the manager. But I want these players gone. I want half of that fucking first team, including everybody's favourites, gone. That includes Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, Luke Shaw, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I want all those players fucking gone. Enough's enough. We need a fucking reset. But Erik ten Hag is making it hard for me to shout and scream about the players if he's not willing to make the smart decisions when it comes to who to play, when it comes to what formations, when it comes to who to trust, when it comes to tactics, when it comes to style of play, when it comes to recruitment, and just when it comes to just him speaking at the end of the game. After the Bayern Munich game, he was like, we played well. That was a good game, good performance. It's like, bro, what game were you fucking watching? We were horrible. Scott McTominay personified everything about us. Terrible on the ball. Not really good at what he does anyway when it comes to getting on the ball in the first place. Like, even the first 5 minutes of the game, Scott McTominay was like playing as attacking midfielder, and Bruno Fernandes was playing up front next to Højlund. I was thinking to myself, why are you leaving Amrabat by himself when we're facing a front line of Harry Kane, Musiala, and Kingsley Coman? Why would you do that? Why not play Bruno Fernandes and Amrabat together as a double pivot? Maybe Bruno Fernandes has license to go forward a bit more, but having that double screen in front of the defenders can help the extra runners that are coming in from Musiala, Kingsley Coman, and of course Bayern Munich's fullbacks. That didn't happen. We started the first 5 minutes with Amrabat only as the lone defensive midfielder. Then after 5-10 minutes, it changed. But who changed that? And why did it start in the first place? It's such a dumb decision to make. So that's driving me nuts. So at the moment, I'm happy we're out of the Champions League. That's all well and good. But there needs to be some major changes happening very soon. And if Erik ten Hag's job is on the line and he gets fired in January, he has no one to blame but himself. He is firing himself. He is firing himself with his poor fucking decisions. He's firing himself and he has no one to blame but himself. And to be honest, I wouldn't be too sad about it, because to me, he's the greatest managerial catfish of all time. He came in, we all wanted him, myself included, because we saw how Ajax played. Naively, we saw highlights of them playing the Eredivisie. We saw them playing in the Champions League, and we wanted that. That's what we wanted. And then instead, he abandoned his principles, he abandoned his footballing philosophy, and he tried to cater to these shit-stained players. And that's unforgivable. That's fucking unforgivable. I'm over it.